so here we are in our weekly layout choosing section. So we have just checked that we wanted our monthly spread on 2 pages, then 2 notes, then our weekly spread, then 2 note pages after each weekly. We've also checked that we want a medium planner. Now, here is a really interesting spot. Now, when you come to this page, after you have selected what type of configuration you want, this being the weekly, monthly, just ignore this section right here that I'm circling. Ignore that for now. It's going to be important, but just kind of move away from it and focus what's going on over here on your left-hand side. In particular, your duration. This is a really important option. If you're new to Agendio, I highly suggest thinking about a 6-month planner. Now, money-wise, yes, it's probably a little bit better to go with a 12-month planner. You'll get more use out of it. However, will you really get the use? And that's the ticket with the 6 months. If you're new to Agendio, you need to understand that Agendio is going to take whatever planning style you had before and turn it on its head. It's going to make you think about planning in ways that you never thought about it before. In fact, one of the members of the Facebook group, Agendio Planner Fans, actually talks about how in her planner, she has a page dedicated in the back where she literally goes through and lists all the things that she wants to customize for her next planner, her next Agendio, all the little things that she's noticing. Oh, I use this section a little bit more, so I want it bigger, or I don't really use this section, so I can probably take it out, or oh, this title's not working for me, I want to label it this, right? Or maybe I need this one shaded and that one not, or I need hours here, or I need AM PM boxes here, that sort of thing. And so, especially if you're coming from some of these other planners where you didn't really get a ton of choice in the customization, which frankly is most planners, really a 6-month option can be really, really helpful. And so at this point you have options with the cover, and obviously this one is a printed soft cover. And if you click on this little arrow, you'll see that it literally talks about its different types of covers. That having this eco leather, it really is environmentally friendly, and it looks beautiful, and they can get gorgeous colors and everything, and it pleases everybody. And I think that that's excellent because the material is beautiful, and it keeps everyone happy. So this is the wrapped one. The printed soft cover is the one that you see that has the plastic overlay. Basically, it is a cardstock printed page that you can get customized for you with your monogram, your initials, and then it has a plastic overlay on top of that. So those are sort of your options. In this case, this spiral binding is the only option for the 12-month weekly planner that we have chosen, with the months, the note pages, the weeks, and then the note pages. As we talked about before, the eco leather one is available in some of the smaller ones, right? In some of the thinner planners, just because of the nature of the material. But this is really a nice way for you to just click over and see everything and any of your options. So now you also have kind of your print, right? So it's also all about the colors for things, right? And this is basically where you get to decide, do you want an all black and white planner, in which case this will lower the cost, or do you want to be able to choose colors for your planner? Now, if you've seen anybody showing their planners where they have tabs of different colors, remember we talked about that you could have different colors on each tab. I do a rainbow for mine. This is the option that you want to pick, is the color. There is an extra cost for it, so just know that though. But you just click on color and it can be changed later. Now, this color that you're picked here, don't worry so much about that because you're going to go in later and you can pick different colors for each month. But just know that picking color or black and white, you save $10 if you do black and white and if you don't want color. But color can be really helpful too in the shading section. As we go down this left-hand side, which again I wanted you to focus on first, these are where you're going to be able to kind of refine your selections. I recommend don't do anything here yet. Okay, when you're first creating, make sure that you do not unclick any of these things. And the reason why is because when you do that, it's only going to show you certain layouts. This is really good for people who know that they will absolutely only want a column planner. Sure, no problem. Or they know they only want a grid planner, right? That sort of thing. Or they absolutely know that they have to have a very specific thing. Then you can kind of refine your selection. Or if, for example, you're designing another Agendio, then you could definitely use this section. But when you're first doing it, try just leaving everything checked so that you see it all, because really you want to be able to take a look at all the different options they have. It is going to feel a little overwhelming at first for some people. However, I recommend just sitting down. Remember, we talked about getting a drink, getting a snack, hanging out with this page for a little while, and really taking a look. Now, here is your estimated delivery. Okay, so US, Canada, 18 to 25 days, international, 21 to 32. So from date of order, okay? So just keep that in mind right now while I'm doing this. It looks like they're running at about a month. You can expect about a month. And that's really important because you select the month that you want your planner to start in. So you definitely want to plan that in advance, knowing that there's probably going to be about a month wait on that planner. And remember, they're literally creating this for you. So it is going to take a little bit of time. So now let's go back up to the top. Now we can sort of look at this section. Now you will see over here, you do have a number. This is sort of where you're going. So right now, before we do any additional add-ons or anything like that, right now I'm at $64. And that is because I have these extra pages in here, right? So I'm monthly, then my note pages, then my weekly spreads, then additional note pages. So just keep that in mind, that this sort of number will always be up at the top for you to see sort of your progress as you go, how much. So that way you're kind of getting a good idea. Are these not cheap planners? Nope, they're not cheap planners. You know what though? I've bought a lot of cheap planners that I don't use, and I use my Agendio. And so I think that's really what it's about. Now, when you look at comparable planners, I would say like in size and in paper and features, they're right on target. I spent about a little over $70 on my last Agendio, and I spent easily over that on Erin Condren when I buy a new planner from them as well. So comparable planners, and I didn't get any true customization other than the cover from Erin Condren, and we'll talk about that too. Your ability, I actually use the interchangeable covers on my 7x9, my medium Agendio, because let's be frank, the covers, we could definitely use a little bit more fanciness in the covers. I would love to see them do a laminated interchangeable for their covers. I know I would be super excited, but in reality, all I need to do is punch an extra hole, and then I have all of the Erin Condren covers that I've already been using, and now I can use them on my Agendio. So for me, it's not a problem at all, and it's a win-win. So here are the things that are included, and here are going to be some of the options that we can add on later. So right now we know that we're going to have certain options, right? We're going to have the 90 white smooth paper. We know that we're going to have the customizable color and fonts, right? We know we're going to be able to do activities. We know how many pages we're going to have, how many weeks we're going to have, right? All of that. But right now we don't know what's going to be on the inside. So let's go down the list. So as we go down the list, what I want you to see is some people get confused. They'll hit select and they think that they are going to go to the next page. You cannot click. This will not turn to that blue color that we want until you've both selected a weekly and a monthly. So from here, you're going to scroll down all of your weeklies. When we click here, you're actually going to be able to scroll down all your monthly options. Now, this will not turn blue until you have clicked both a monthly and a weekly option. So let's go back to weekly here. Some people get confused about that, and they're a little bit they're unsure about what's going to happen. I clicked on it. Why didn't anything change, right? So let's look at some of our options. So, for example, when we're looking here at this layout, the things that I notice, and this is what I want you to sort of look at all these layouts with the eye to, because remember, we can edit a lot of these layouts. What you're looking for is basically size of different columns or boxes, or how much extra room that you have, right? So in this case, you have got your Friday through Sunday on one page and your Monday through Thursday on another page. What this says to me, and then I look over here, is that my column width will be 1.5. This is an important number. If you have any Erin Condren stickers or any typical box stickers, the full box that is considered standard in the planner community, 1.5 is your standard box. This is true for Happy Planner as well. Happy Planner's width is 1.5. Happy Planner's height is different. Erin Condren's height is 1.9. Happy Planner's is 2.25. So your height is going to be different in a Happy Planner, but that's not going to matter so much if you've got a column. What's going to matter is this width. So if you have a lot of stickers that you want to use up, it could be really useful to you to keep in mind this column width of 1.5. And you're going to find that anytime that you see there being only one section right over here for the notes, anytime where you see two sections for the notes over here, in general, you're going to have a smaller column width. Okay. Now, in this case, you've got this little extra space up here that you could put things in and write things in. You also have hourly, which, remember, we can change this hourly. You can change this to an AM, PM, morning, afternoon, evening, however you want to label it. You can change all that. But what you're looking at is size here. So you're looking at the fact that you get an extra large space for your checklist. You get a large space for planning, right? And you can, again, alter this however you want, and you get one section here to be able to put divisibles. Remember, we can put divisibles in as many times as we want. So you could section this out into tons of different sections, probably well over, probably close to 8, maybe more sections here you could put in. It's just that you will only have one column to do it. And then obviously you'll have a line, and you will have the date up above here. Now, remember, you will be able to alter all of this. You'll be able to alter whether or not it says July or just Jewel. You'll be able to alter whether or not Monday says MON or full on Monday. You'll be able to alter whether it's in all capitals or in lowercase and uppercase. So just keep that in mind. But right now, what we're looking at is size. So if we go down here, here's a really good example of a way that they gave you a double box over here and kept you having a 1.5. And the way they did that was by putting Saturday and Sunday and stacking them and giving them one column. So you still get your 1.5 width. However, you also get your double box over here for note taking. So that's a real cool option. Now we look at this one. Now again, here we go. We have a 1.5. We get our double box over here, our double columns, and we have a stacking, right? Now notice this has the morning, afternoon, evening. Remember, this is all something that you can alter. Okay, what this layout has different from, say, this one up above here is what is going on up here, right? So this has a circle around the dates, the number of the date, and then the word, right? Where this one kind of had this darker circle around it, right? And its placement. That's really all it's doing, but it's also having this section. This is what makes it very different, is having double column over here that you can still divide up any way you want. You don't have to leave it like this. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these. A lot of people will look at this and think, oh, I have to keep it this way. This is the layout. No, it's not. What you're looking at is just the bare bones. Think of it like a house that you are going to renovate. You just need to know the bones of the layout, and then you can gut it and turn it into anything you want from there. All right, so now let's go into the next section. So this is somebody who really does not need extra space at the bottom. So you're going to have this whole space to be able to play with, to be able to change into what you want. Again, we have a 1.5 width, which is very nice. And you also have the space at the top for some priorities, right? This one is, again, a 1.5 width, which again is very standard. But look, you've got these black bars that are very, very similar. In fact, this is the exact width of a classic Erin Condren header, a to-do header, a today header, a little things header. So you're going to be able to use up those stickers in this style, right? But you can, again, change this to be morning, afternoon, evening, or however you want to put those words. It doesn't have to say morning, afternoon, evening. It could say anything you want. However, what this one does is now we are starting to see your spanning pagelet. Remember, we talked a little bit about this. This is where you can write something and then draw on the line over to where you need it to be if you're going to be doing something that spans over a couple of days. Here's where we start to see our spanning pagelets. All right, so now we're going to go down. And here we have basically almost exactly what we had up here, because remember, just because we're not seeing these check boxes in this bottom section over here doesn't mean we can't add them. We can add these check boxes to this style planner. The only difference between this one and this one, okay, the only differences are this top section for the date. Notice how the day is much smaller and there's a second line, whereas this is much bolder, right? And there's no line. And there is a stackable weekend with a double section, a double column section for your divisibles. Again, you can change these divisibles however you want. You don't have to have them that way. Again, you don't have to have them that way here. However, that is what makes these two styles different, not this section, right? Because this AM PM, you can still do that here. And the spanning pagelet is still the same here and here. And the bottom section with these check boxes is exactly the same here and here. You can change it to look exactly the same. What is different is that you have a stackable weekend and you have the double on your notes kind of section. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, again, another option where we have stackable, right? This one gives us our priority. So if you look up here to this one, you're going to find that you have basically this idea of having your two columns, having it go all the way across versus being able to have it be columns, right? Very easy. You can still add your check boxes. All right, let's look down at this one. And this one has no spanning pagelet. Okay, so if you don't like that, but you still want some space up here to do kind of your event of the day, your big moment, or even your dinner, right? You still have that section up there. Now, unlike some of the ones that say priority, you don't have an option to put a tag up there. You just sort of have this blank space that you can use however you want. I'll show you as we go down. There's some that actually have an option for this upper box to be able to write in it. So you can write what that space is. Again, here you could add in hours if you wanted to. So this, again, you can divisible this up any way you want. So then we're looking at the next one. Again, we still have a 1.5 width. And it's basically just showing you some of the different options that you can have. And notice these top sections, yeah, they're changing up whether it's Friday or Friday. You can change that no matter what. What it's showing you is, oh, let's have a note section that can go all the way across. That's all. And you can still divide this up however you wish. So here's another one, another option, another way to kind of divide up these sections. And again with 1.5. Now, when you get all the way to the bottom, that is by no means all of them. Let's load more. We're going to be here for a little while. I hope that you've gotten a drink, that you're working it out, you have something to eat. So we have our next section, again, still 1.5. This gives us our hours all the way down, our columns. And this gives us, we're going to be able to put some things up here, right? So let's keep going down because now we've reached our priority boxes, which is super fun. This is something that I really like. So this one will say priority in it. This is an option for people who really want to have that section that is their priority. Priority is in there in grayscale, so just keep that in mind. It is printed with that. This one has a spanning pagelet. Again, you could change this to the Monday, the morning, afternoon, evening if you wanted. And this has the double box for your note section on the other side. However, you can divide it up however you want. But notice something that has changed now. Because you do not have a stacking weekend, you now have changed your column width to 1.2. This is a big difference. This means that you are going to have a single column for every single day of the week. However, they are going to be thinner, which means Erin Condren full box stickers will not fit in this. So the classic style sticker will not fit. So just keep that in mind. You will need to get smaller stickers. If you don't use stickers, it's no big deal. If you do use stickers, or if you have a ton that you want to use up, it could be something. So just keep that in mind. If you really need to have each of your weekend days specifically laid out and not stacked, and you need that double on the side. And what's nice about this one is Saturday and Sunday is separate from your week, which is quite nice. Now, here we go into what I was talking about, which is kind of one of my favorite boxes, which is the priority with the top, not the priority that's sort of just grayscale in the center, which is the only option you have. It's just there. This is your option where you can put anything you want. For me, in my last Agendio, this is a section, instead of priority, I had it say dinner. So that on the top of all of my spreads, I had a box to put my dinner, anything that I would need up there. I was able to use that for that purpose. And so this is another example of having a double column on the sidebar. Again, here's the section. You can change this to hourly if you want, but again, this is a 1.2 with your weekend on this page. So now we are getting into stackables with a 1.2 column width, which gives you 3 columns worth of extra note page, right? For your checklist, your thought dumping, whatever you need to do, it gives it to you all over here. So in order to do that, they had to make these columns smaller. Again, this has the priority that you can change to any wording that you want on the top, and it has a spanning pagelet for your Monday through Friday. Moving down, again, we have another option very similar to this. However, instead of having this be a large section that you can divide up this way, you can divide it up in columns. Okay. Then we come into some of the fun ones. So if you look, the difference is in basically our top part here, you're going to see your font. You get to change your font how you want, but the sizing is different on these. Also, this has the grayscale priority that is different, and also has the double box at this point instead of the triple box. You can kind of see as you look down, you can see that section, that box then turns into the Sunday. All right, so let's go down the next section. So this is that double box again that you can divide up, whereas this has your columns, right? But still has your large font. At this point though, now you have your label. So instead of having your priority that's grayscale in the middle, now you can change it to any word that you want. Okay, so now let's move to the next. So this gives us our 3 box again. So are you starting to see a theme? So what they've done is they've taken sort of a base layout, and then they've given you multiple options within that layout to be sort of more user friendly, to be able to kind of give you that template, that initial template to work with. But again, stuff like this, you could put circle checklists, circles here or squares here. You don't have to have the line. That's just something they're showing you as an option. And again, you could put hourly in here. You wouldn't need that. What this is it's about your bare bones. So for example, up here where it has your weekly goals, and up here it has your calendar, you can change this. You could have this say weekly goals. The only difference between these two, if you're looking at them, because you could have this be hourly, right? And you could put lines in here just like there are up here. The difference between these two is that this gives you the option to have this full span of space, okay, for writing in. This full span of space. So you would divide it up horizontally this way, okay? Whereas this gives you columns, so you can divide it up by each column, right? However, you won't be dividing it up all the way across. That's the only difference. You can change this top section. You do not need to leave it as a monthly, and you can decide which month that you want to have put up there. Do you want it to be just the previous month or the future or 2 future months, right? You can decide. You can also leave it blank, or you can type in whatever header that you want up there, or you can put lines up there. Okay, so you have options in these sections. These are still divisibles. The difference is whether or not you have this full space going across, right, versus the columns. So that's the difference. All right, and this shows you right here, divisible width is 4.8, divisible width is 2.4. So that's really what you're focusing on when it comes to this. So here we come into another one. So this is another option, again, where you can write in your own list up here for whatever you want as your priority, but you get to change that however you want. Again, you can change anything you want up here. But what's nice about this is it, again, gives you a divisible width of 3.6. So you get this 2-column divisible. And again, now you have your divisible width of 1.8. So you can divide this up however that you want. And let's move down. Here's where we start to get some kind of unique layouts, I would say. So this one's really interesting, where you have, now again, your column width is going to be 1.2. However, your hours are going to be over here on the section. This can be really useful if you have things besides your hours that you would like to put. Like, for example, if you follow a very specific teacher schedule and you want to put lunch and recess, right? This can be a great space to do that, because while you could certainly do things in this section by putting things as lunch or recess, it's going to take up more of the space on the column. Whereas if you do it here, you're going to be able to write more, and you're going to have more characters to be able to fill in that section, and then you'll just follow it across as you go. So that's really, really useful. You also have this great label section. So especially if you have trackers, this is a great place to put daily trackers for things that you need to do, maybe the time, like gym, and then you can write in what time each day you went to the gym, for example, or for family members, right? What's something that they need to do that day, right? You have put each child's name, and then you can put what's their big task of the day, right? These sections that say important, again, that's why it's sort of like label. You put whatever you want. You do not need to leave it as important. You also don't need to leave it shaded. You can unshade it and shade this section if you'd like, instead of this section. Again, you could make this a goal section, or a blank section, or a line section, or a checkbox section. You can make this anything you want. Remember, it's just about the bones, and the bones of this one are that it gives you this column to be able to put some sort of list that then carries over for the whole week. Again, these do not have to remain hours. You can write in anything you want in this space. All right, let's move down. So this is another version of this one. And the only difference here, if you look, is that this one is going to not have the lines in between. So you can see here, the lines are removed in between so that you can kind of carry over your whole week a little bit easier. Whereas this one, if you really need defined days, this one has solid lines going up and down. That's it. You can still change this up how you want, change this up how you want, all of that. It's just whether or not you want those lines. And here's another one. So what this one does is it actually, again, you could do this same sidebar up here. So that's not something that changed with this. What changed in this is that it shrunk the amount of space you have here to give you a spanning pagelet. Remember, we talked about the spanning pagelets up above. The other thing that it also did is it also allowed you to have, see, this has the grayscale priority here. Well, this one allows you to write in anything you want into that box. and it gives you that spanning pagelet, and it made this section bigger because of the spanning pagelet. So then we go into the next section, and again, very, very similar to what we saw above, where this one does not have the lines defining the columns, and this one does have the lines defining the columns. Otherwise, these are exactly the same, okay? You can do anything you want with these. Next one. So now we've lost our side, right? But at this point, now we are looking at having our divisible width be 3.6, having our priority box at the top, and then having all of our hours going down. Again, you can switch these out. They don't need to be hours. Let's go down a little bit farther. Here's another section where you have a double notes page on the side, and another example of how you can do the hourly. In these hourlies, you can see the difference. This one sort of has some bolder lines. You can choose to do that. You can choose how far apart you want your lines to be spaced. You can also choose if you want your lines to be dashed or solid. Remember, we talked about that. And so you're going to be able to choose those options and how far apart you want them. So now we're going to go to the next one. And so this is another example, just a little bit different layout, right? It's a little different on the top. You've got the full color behind the number, but you're just going to have that box up above with that section to write in whatever you want. It could be hours, it could be, whatever it might be. And then you're going to have a bunch more labels. So this is an option where up above, there was only, I think, 4 or 5 labels, where here you're going to be able to have 6 labels. And so it also shows you a difference in how you're going to be doing your solid lines versus your dashed lines, and then your grayscaled lines. And so you can choose all of that. But again, there's no dividing lines for the columns. All right, let's go to the next one. This one just looks a little bit different because it doesn't have this sort of darker lining, right? And it kind of only does the darker lining, and it gives you all your dotted lines, right? So these are just a couple of little differences. Here we really get into something different. And so these are for people who really have a lot to write about and lists to keep, but don't necessarily need a ton of room each day. And so this is that all 1 week on one page, and then the entire other page you have for writing. Okay, so you can see over here your divisible width is going to be 6.0, right? So you're really going to have a lot of space. However, you choose this model, you're not going to have columns, okay? You're only going to have all the way across. So this is really good for your horizontal planners. Here we go to the next one, where this one gives you a little bit different visual options on this side. Again, you can change this if you want solid lines, if you want no lines, if you want dotted lines, if you want check boxes, you can change all that. However, what's different about this one is the look of it, having a solid color behind the number versus blank white behind the number, and that you have a 2-column divisible over here. You see the divisible width again, that's 3.0. All right, so you're going to be able to divide each column up, right, however you want, no lines, check boxes, whatever. However, you won't be able to go all the way across. You divide in columns versus here where you divide horizontally with the whole 6.0. So then we go down to our next one. This really changes things up. I love looking at some of these box ones. These aren't my particular planning style, but I just think they're so unique. I love this, giving you your box for your priority. And then remember this label section. You see label, you're going to change this to anything that you want. And this does not need to stay blank. You can put lines in here. You could put hours in here. Say you only work Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so you need to have hourly markers for those days. Put hours in there, But again, this is a 6.0 divisible width, and this is just an example of how you might be able to break that up. Now we're going to the next section. So this does not have a priority, but it does give you that blank box. If you want something up above that doesn't say priority, but you do want that section, this is the layout to choose. This does not need to stay shaded. Again, you can change that. And this gives you columns for your divisible. Again, your divisible width is going to be 3.0. And also keep in mind your date pagelet, so that's going to be 2.0. So this is going to be about 0.5 wider than an Erin Condren full box sticker. So your full box will still fit in this. You're just going to have a little space all around it. So here we go into some true horizontal planning. This one puts your Monday through Friday on one side of your planner, and it puts a smaller section for your Saturday and Sunday on the other side. This is for people who really don't need anything much on the weekends, just a little bit, but need a lot of space to be able to take some notes. Again, this is a 6.0 divisible width, so you're only going to be able to be horizontal with this, but you are going to be able to change this how you want. If you want to have check boxes, right, or hours, or you want it to be blank, you're going to be able to alter that how you wish. So here we go, and this is basically the exact same layout as this one. However, we've changed the divisible width. With divisible width, as you can see, it's very, very similar. Okay, this has one divisible, right? This one section, right, that you can break up into multiples, right? However, you can't do it into columns, right? And this has the 2 columns, right? And you are going, your row height is going to be the same, just your divisible width that changes. Again, you can change this up. You do not need to have all these labels in here. You could just have one section if you wanted. It's just that these are columns. And again, you can see here how they kind of showed you the option. See how you have weekly goals with blank here, but then they showed you, oh, now you can do it with just lines, or you can have it shaded or not shaded. Again, all of these little sections can totally change however you want them. It's really more about how much do you want divisibles as columns, right? Do you want double? Do you want triple? Do you want it all the way across? That you're really looking at your bare bones of your layout. Okay, another example of this is an example of how to take a 6.0 divisible and turn it into 2, right? That's how that works. You can see here where this is they just have one section. Well, here they just showed you how you might do it with checklists and 2 sections. The difference here is that there's a break. Okay, there is a break in these 2 sections, so you could add check boxes to each side of these instead of having it be all the way across. That's the big difference with this style versus the other style. Now, if we're looking down, here you go. Here's another example of this exact thing could be this. Okay, you could put these check boxes on this one. The difference is this has a 6.0 divisible and this has a 3.0 divisible, right? Because you have 2 columns that, again, you can split up however you want. So that's the only difference between these 2. This one does not give you check boxes where this one doesn't. This one can have check boxes too. It's just about column versus no columns, right? So I hope you're starting to see the pattern that Agendio has. Some people get really concerned. They're saying, well, I want there to be check boxes, but I want this one, and I don't, and so I really hope that people are getting that message that you can change all those little things. You just need to pick your foundation, right? Your bare bones. Here is some true horizontal planning. Another example, instead of having sort of the day be vertical. Oops, I clicked a little bit on that one. This is another example of it where, again, you could put lines here. That's no problem. Here's another example of how you can put lines. And again, you have most of your days on one side. However, this one, because if you want the same amount of space for your weekends, this one actually gives you all of your days equally. It just puts your Sunday over here. And so the difference between this is, again, a 6.0 divisible versus a 3.0 divisible. Okay, now you can still have lines, you can still have check boxes just like you do here. All right, so the next one we have is going to be a 6.0 divisible, and this one you're going to get everything. Now you're going to notice your row height, right? Your row height went from a 1.4 to a 1.2. That's because they put all 7 days. You get equal space for all 7 days. It's just smaller space now because you have them all on one page, and you have this entire page for brain dumping, checklists, notes, whatever you need to do. But again, your divisible is going to be 6.0. So this is really good for people who want to write out longhand a lot of things, because you're going to have this entire page width to be able to do that. You can only divide it up horizontally. Whereas here, it's exactly the same. Again, see how there's lines here? There's no lines here. You can add lines to this section. You can add checklists to this section. The only difference between this one and this one is going to be your divisible width, where you have columns here and you don't have any columns here. Okay, so then we go into our next one. This is another example of a different way to sort of lay out this, where you're going to be given a little bit of space here to be able to write some things. This is a great place to do your priority stuff. And again, you can add checklists. You could add checklists to this too. It's just that this goes all the way across, where this gives you this little section over here to be able to write some things. And it also is a 6.0 divisible. Again, this one and this one are exactly the same. It's just the divisible is going to be in columns versus your full over 6.0. Okay, so now we have reached the end. Whew, that is a lot. We've been recording for quite a while. So I am going to pick one of these, and we will continue this on in the next segment. I'm going to try and get these uploaded in segments for you, because I realize how long these are. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to let's pick the one that I know I'm currently on, and I think that is it this one? Well, we'll just pick this one. I'm not sure if this is the one I'm currently using or not, but we'll pick this one just because it happens to be here. And notice it turned blue, but I didn't go anywhere on my pages. That's because I now have my blue checklist for my weekly models, but I have not picked my monthly yet. Okay, so for my monthly, I have less options, and this can be helpful for people. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 options. Okay, a little bit easier to deal with. And so the big differences in the monthly options are going to be mainly visual. They're mainly going to be stylistic choices. In this case, I have lines that divide all of my boxes, and my numbers are just plain numbers sitting there. This one, I have no lines dividing my boxes, and the numbers have a color behind them. Okay? This one is a very different monthly layout, where basically you have your numbers down the side, and then it tells you the days of the week, and you write what you want there with an additional page for note keeping. Again, this one is very similar to this. However, the difference is, again, a 6.0 divisible versus a 3.0 divisible. Okay, so really your options are, do you want your lines to define your boxes or not to define your boxes? I personally like lines to divide my boxes, so I'm going to select this. You can see the customized box is now blue, and I can start customizing. So that will be another video. I'll be working on it very shortly, and I'll have that up for you. I hope this has been helping you, but we're going to get into customizing very shortly in the next video. I hope that you will join me. Thanks, everybody.